we're talking about people. So I love when I see people standing around boards and walls looking at their tickets, these teams, and I think they know what they're doing. And I don't interrupt them either. I go and listen. I go stand with them and listen and see what they say. If they need guidance, I provide guidance. You know? So I become part of the team. And I think if you work in these in these DevOps organizations and you have these kind of people or the kind of teams working for you, if you go and ask them, they'll tell you that. They'll say, ask well, the teams, how's it going? They'll say, we know what we're doing. We know how best to do it. Taking a step back, we've got this huge problem in our world at the moment. It's very, very volatile. We've got this high tech, we've got this connectivity. It's getting even faster and faster. If you look at my technical director used to work at Morgan Stanley, high-speed trading, milliseconds. They moved the server actually at the New York Stock Exchange server farm in New Jersey. They actually, the brokers pay more rent to get their server close to the core, like 50 centimeters, because they win a millisecond, and that makes in high frequency trading they get more effective. That actually 50 centimeters could make a couple of $1 million a day. That's how crazy it is. It's very volatile. It's very abstract. Yeah, but nonetheless, we're also expected to perform in this environment. Yeah? High performance, as in bringing speed, and it's expected. And if we take the question again about this top management question, how do you convince them? Well, you deliver speed. That's the best way. That's my experience. And what we have is what's expected from us, and I can include me in this as well, because I see myself as a COO, it's operations. I'm all about operations. I see myself as being part of this. So that I take this expectation, as well as my teams. I share it with them. And a model from Michael Porter, who's an economics professor at Harvard, he defines this zone of competition that we're in. If you say our company, the Secucloud, is in the zone of competition, and these are the forces that are always pushing against this company, against the teams. We've got new entrants. What is a new entrant? How is a new entrant can be better than us? Because they're even better at DevOps. They're even faster. They've got newer technology. They're on the. They haven't got the legacies. The software that's 10 years old that they've got to still support and maintain. Then you've got your suppliers. Nobody does anything on their own anymore. That's a cost factor. We've got legislation in terms of IT security. Data protection in Germany is like the most severe there is in the world, and so on and forth. And then you've got your customers. What do your customers want? In the B2C market, it's okay. You've got your mass market. What do they need? But in the B2B, when we work with telecommunication companies, they have very, very, on the one hand, economic or business-orientated expectations. But so why DevOps? Speed. The self-regulation, I find, is a very, very important part, that teams can self-regulate themselves. That means you have to give them that space. And I'll come to that in a minute. That's culture as well. How do you do that? And the accountability. If you take on the self-regulation and the freedom, I call it freedom. The IT teams that I had in Berlin, the agile teams, they said, hey, we're independent. We can decide ourselves. That's okay. If you want that, then you get the responsibility. You get the accountability then. If it goes wrong, it's your head. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. That's what came back. No, we have to talk about this, Mark. We've got to talk about what accountability means, because I don't lose my job. Yeah, but you want the freedom. Yeah, well, let's talk about it. And this is a culture thing. And basically, at the end of the day, we want efficiency. At the last conference, somebody asked me, why did the subsidiary in Berlin, it's called the ePost Development GmbH, why did it move to DevOps? Because it was an agile. It was set up as an agile organization. And I just said it was the logical next step. That's the only reason. Because if you go into an agile, if you say you're being agile, that means you just improve yourself all the time. So the obvious next step, and I think that was nobody said that quite specifically yet, is the agile. You've got the silo problem. You've got the interfaces between the units. And we didn't solve that at the post at all, but we did manage to set up the DevOps teams that they could work on their own. They could develop and deploy You could deploy 5 times a day. So with 10 teams, we had up to 50 deployments a day. Can organizations be led to a DevOps world? And the answer for me is, well, it depends on whether an organization can lead. So what I want to do here is make it a differentiation between top management. We leave them out, first of all. I want to split process and skills. So the technical director is completely responsible for the technology, how the teams work, the skills in those teams, and how those technology teams, those development teams work with sales. That's not his problem. That's mine. That's my problem. Or how his development teams work with the support desk. That's not his problem. That's my problem. Those are the interfaces. You know? Has anyone read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In? Yeah, it's kind of okay. It's written by an American, you can tell, but there's some really good insights in there, how she defined her role at Facebook. And I see the COO role has kind of vanished over the years, but I see it as a re-emerging role. I think it's really important for the future, because I really believe it's important to split process from skills, to focus. Yeah? So it depends on whether an organization can lead. Go back to that question. So what does it mean to lead an organization? So what I learned was, and this is what I do at Secucloud now, is I said, well, let's look at the process. And let's look not just the process of development, but look at the whole the business value chain. So basically, we have a product, we sell the product to a market that exists, and then we deploy the product, and then we service the product. So basically, you've got input and you've got output. It's a simple I and O. Yeah? So the input is, we've got the input from the customers, which is sales. And of course, we've got input from the market, and that's product strategy, because there's trends. 5 years ago, we wouldn't have said you need a network-based security solution for the Internet of Things. The answer would have been, the question would have been, what is the Internet of Things? Well, when was it? Last autumn, there was a denial of service attack that hit Wall Street Journal, New York Times, really, as tech companies. Where did it come from? It came from televisions and cameras. It didn't even come from computers. It came from these appliances that have no protection. They don't even have an endpoint protection. Yeah, and this is a market trend. So what have we learned? We've learned there's a huge market there. Yeah, it's growing even. We've got this input coming in. So we've got 2 units, sales, product strategy, purely focused, interfaced with each other. Those are the red dots. And this is all about the interfaces. And what I tried to do here with our company now is keep the interfaces to a minimum, because interfaces are also the points where things break, where mistakes get made. This consulting is part of the sales, and it's kind of on the other side of the product strategy. You know? And then the product strategy goes into product development. Those are the development teams, 2 teams. And then the black bit is what I would loosely describe as our Devops area, which is once the product is basically finished as an instance for a particular telecom, which also includes a set of middleware to talk to their AAA servers, CRM systems, their internal systems, then it needs to be deployed and it needs to be serviced and maintained. So we've got this operations, quality assurance, customer support. So that's from an organizational point of view. The point I want to make here is about leadership is it's the bit in the middle that matters. It's project managers. So you told me, how many Scrum Masters are there in Europe? 250,000. Okay, who works for Scrum? Who's the Scrum Master? I have to know before I insult somebody. Okay, I don't believe in Scrum Masters. I believe it's a role that's going to vanish in the next few years because it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't have any accountability. It moderates processes. Yeah? It sorts problems out, fair enough. No, I want project managers. I want project managers who go and kick somebody's ass to get the problem solved. And I want someone who's going to see that problem coming and avoid it. And that's why I have them right through the whole process here, the whole value chain. At the end of the day, the whole organization focuses on this objective, and that's the output. to the market. And that's the business. It's only the business value that matters. If you take a business value away from a company, you don't have a company anymore. So the rest is irrelevant. Nothing worth having comes easy. It's got to be worked for. And one of the things that is always, the main criteria that's always become apparent to me, and it's a culture thing, is getting people to be responsible and taking on accountability. How do you learn responsibility? How do you learn to be accountable? I don't really think there's any training to be had. Someone in Berlin a year ago told me there is. In the Netherlands, I think, but I've never come across anything. I learned to be responsible just by doing it, and by having the courage, and maybe the self-destructive part of my character, to say, what the hell, try it, what can happen, I'm not going to die. I just get my face slapped, maybe, or I get fired. Those are the two worst things that can happen. But it's not, the one thing is not easy to attain is this intuitive responsibility to, and as I said, when I said to the teams, you said to the teams in Berlin, okay, you want that freedom, you be responsible. Oh, no. I didn't mean that. I just want the freedom. Oh, no, sorry, it's the other side of the coin. So I started thinking, and what I'm going into now is my thoughts over the past 18 or past 5-6 years about this topic. And I started wondering, I was reading, I even read some psychological psychology literature on, it's called something called acceptance commitment therapy, it's called. And it's about basically accepting the world around you and dealing with it. ACT. And they actually take this word apart. And you can do this in German as well, it works the same way. But responsibility, if you take the word apart, and it's a word that's often misused in organizations, especially large organizations, it's thrown about the same way as shall we go for lunch. You say, this is your new job and this is your responsibility. And if it goes wrong, hey, you were responsible. But it's without any thought what it actually means. And basically, it's two bits. It's being able to respond to something, to answer to something. So if you think, well, how do you do that? Well, you need knowledge. That's the first thing. On the other hand, and then you need the kind of personality. You need that, okay, I'm prepared to open my mouth. I've got the courage to do it. And then the other side is the ability. It's the ability to do something. It's okay just to say, I've got the knowledge and I can pinpoint what the problem is. But what I want in someone who goes into leadership is to say, and now I'm going to act upon that knowledge and I'm going to create a solution. Be solution-orientated. And somebody who's solution-orientated is also future-orientated, which means moving forward. So, responsibility to be able, with adequate skills, to respond to and provide an answer to a situation. Very, very simple. How do you get there? Responsibility, it thrives upon mutual trust and human relationships. You can always have the self-destructive guy who will say, I don't care what anyone else thinks about me, I'm going to do this anyway, and generally those are the individualistic people. They generally cause more harm than any good. In the context of an organization and this high level culture, leadership culture that exists there, there's the transactional type of leadership, which I call micromanagement, which you've got the leader, and he has a human relationship to each member of the team, but each member of the team doesn't have a relationship to each other. They don't talk to each other. They just stand and they look at the boss all the time. Tell me what to do. And this is transactional. And what that does is it keeps the mutual trust down. The communication is not good. And the collective capability is kept low. And the knowledge, of course, because there's no communication, so there's no knowledge transfer. And if you go to the transformational style of leadership, which is more the macro type of leadership, hands off, what these four attributes do is they grow. They don't grow overnight. It takes, let's say, a good change process, if it's quick, 18 months to 2 years. But what happens is the team, if you think about my first picture, we know how best to do what we're doing. Yeah? The team starts to they gel with each other. The knowledge gets shared. They become a high-performance team. They don't need managing, but they have been led there. And that's the important point, because it's something that doesn't happen overnight. You know? So let's just talk about culture again. Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And he's right. Where does this responsibility come from in an organization? Who's responsible for making responsibility? That's a question. Has anybody got an answer? No. Okay, it's a rhetorical question. The answer is, I am, or a leader is responsible. But if you go and look at a huge concern or organization, they'll say, oh, it's HR. They have a training catalog. Yeah, go there. And they also, nowadays, they call themselves business partners. Yeah. And you go there and you can, as a manager, and you can say, well, I want to get my team more responsible. How do I do it? And they say, oh, we'll do some training. We'll do an offsite. We can do some coaching. I can organize that. I can get a coach for you, and so on and so forth. No. The culture is founded basically on a common set of values. It values individuals and their interaction with processes. It values the individual and a group reaction to change. That's important. Change is good. It's not threatening. Courage and ability to adapt to the plan, or adapt to the plan, change it because something happened. Think about the volatility that we have in our world. And step outside your comfort zone, and that means having that courage. Do something you haven't done before. Even if you don't know whether it's going to work, and you might fail miserably, and you don't get that from HR. That's what you have to provide as a team leader, as someone who's leading a team. If anyone's here, if you're all any of you in management, if you are talking to, that's what I expect that you're doing with your people. Your people are your assets, your capital. So going back to values again, the Agile Manifesto is this. Yeah? There are values in the red bits, but the Agile Manifesto values the green much, much more, which for me is like, we don't need the red stuff. And that's the way it's interpreted, and a lot of Scrum Masters I've met interpret it exactly that. I go to a Scrum Master and I say, well, the process is broken. They say, yeah, but the individual is more important, so we're not going to bother the process. And here's the manifesto. Yeah. And I said, okay, I don't need you. Okay. So I thought, well, maybe I could rewrite it, be a bit provocative, and say, well, it's a suggestion anyway. Individuals and interactions, it's the most important thing for me, that the person is in the middle of everything. It's the center of everything. It's the people. Yeah? In the IT business, those jobs are not going to be automated. Maybe the QA, to a certain extent. But the guy who creates the code and solves those technical problems, they're not going to be replaced by machines. I don't believe it. Yeah? So the person is the capital. Yeah? But that person needs supportive processes and tools. Marco talked a lot about tools, which is the right way forward. If you can automate it, you should do. I totally agree. What did Einstein say? Doing the same thing over and over again is a form of insanity, especially when it doesn't work. And repetitive tasks, machines can just do it better. It's simple. Yeah? But they can't. They need to be programmed to do it, so you still need a person. Yeah? And working with go back to this one, working software over comprehensive documentation. Yeah, I agree with it to a certain extent, but my customers are telecommunication businesses, and I have SLAs with them, and they want the documentation. I can't just say to them, oh, here's the working software. I don't get a contract. And that's what the reality is. If you're working in say it's Epicode, you're going out to customers, you've got to adapt to what your customers want. Those are the requirements.
It's also a matter about legislation. I mean,
legislation,
The telephone company, to meet up some legislation, they also put security measures.
They ask me, where's your, what's it called, business continuity, that disaster recovery, where's the ISO 22302, is it? 2320. Yeah, it's a document, so I need it, it's a required level. You don't have to document everything, but you need a required level, something that's applicable. And then customer collaboration, what did they say before? Over contract negotiation, sorry, there's no business without contracts in our line. Requirement engineering is just a form of negotiation. That's all it is. The product strategy, people want a blue elephant, and well, we can build a bluish one, or we can build a turquoise one. So you negotiate then. That's the negotiation. It's a form of contract. So they're founded upon negotiation. They're founded upon agreements. And responding to the change by not over-following a plan, adapt the plan. If you don't have a plan in place, then you won't keep your people, the stakeholders involved, they won't be on the same page. Well, so that's the first thing that happens then is the misunderstandings begin. If there's no common understanding of what a group of people do, then you have misunderstandings. And a misunderstanding in week 1 of a project will be in week 4 of a project. This is a pea, and this is a melon, a rotten one. Yeah? Projects break because of misunderstandings. I'm very consequent. If I see a project that's so broken, I just kill it. I don't try and fix it. That is not worth my time. It's not worth the money. It's not worth the effort. Just kill it. The role of management, turn resources into production. That's what I see. I have a group, I have 40 people. They have to provide the output of our product into this market so that we make money. So there is an emotional trade-off about moving to this accountability, I call it. Yeah. This is a model I borrowed from Peter Drucker about the curve would actually be the limits of production in terms of quality and time. And I just changed it and I said, well, I've got people, right? And they have, on one hand, they have confidence in what they do, they're well trained. On the other hand, I give them accountability for what they do. They're responsible for what happens. Yeah? So if I push the accountability too far on the curve or on the axis, I reduce the confidence. And the other way around, so what I get is fear, the fear attitude. Yeah? On the other hand, a very confident team without any accountability gets too overconfident and passive. So I believe that inside this quadrant here is a pretty much low to medium performance zone. Yeah, he didn't go beyond this point here. I call it the capabilities limit. And where I see high performance teams is they step outside that, and the yellow is the comfort zone, basically. So step outside that comfort zone, and what you do over time is you just make that barrier. You push it outwards. You know, teams get better; they get more high performance. Yeah. So they get over the capabilities limit and address the company objectives head on. You know, be aware of them and not be afraid of them. That's the important thing. So how do you do that? Well, you can't just expect people to go into this state of being very confident and very accountable. They have to be led in there, or I would say trained or coached. Yeah? Is a model for transformational leadership. So how do a transactional leadership would not achieve this, because a transactional leadership is based upon a negotiated agreement. You deliver this by tomorrow. Yes, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. A transformational leadership says, you deliver this by tomorrow. Is that possible? The team says, we're not sure. I'll say, well, let's look at it together, how we can make it possible. So I, as the leader, go into the team, and I guide them. You know, I go in as a moderator, and as a guidance, as a coach, and I change my role. And to develop a team over a long period of time, this is where this model comes from. It's from Kent Blanchard. It's this little group of books called The 1 Minute Manager. They're quite easy to read, from the 90s. And basically, you have to go through these 4 phases. You set up a team. Everyone knows about the forming, storming, norming, performing. Yeah, it's the same thing here. In the forming phase, you direct. It's directive. So you're the conductor. You give orders. It's more authoritative. But you need to go into the next phase where you start training. Yeah. And then you can go into the seconding, which is support. Okay, you You do it now on your own, but don't worry, I'm right behind you, and if you need my help, I'm there. That gives confidence. And when the team or a person gets through that phase, then you can delegate. Yeah? You've got someone you can just rely on. You've mutual trust, all those attributes I mentioned earlier. And then you can do it. In my experience, I found that people, a lot of managers, I would say the split is like 70-30%. 70% would start here. Okay, I'm your new boss, I've got a new team, or I've recruited this new team for this new project. Go get it, guys, go do it. And they go straight to delegating. They miss out 2 and 3. And it never works. Or has anyone experienced the opposite? Good. Thank God for that. No, but seriously, it doesn't work. You cannot expect a team or a person to be thrown into deep water and swim without showing them how to do it. So move from transactional to transformational leadership culture. To go back to the questions that came from here at the end of Marco's talk is, well, how do you make that move in this management level? Yeah, and I would say leave the board out of it. Just manage them. Yeah? Just tell them it's working, or don't even tell them you're doing it. Just do it. It's possible. You can get away with it, just under the radar. Because all they're interested in is the output. They're not interested in how, just the output. So service that interest and move from this transactional to transformational leadership style. In the middle, you've got a situative leadership style, because there will always be points where there'll be crises. Something will go wrong. Half the team is sick. In Germany 2 years ago, there was a flu epidemic in the first quarter. Half of that team in Berlin was sick in the first quarter. It was just a crisis. And you need someone to go in there and mitigate it. Yeah? That was an unforeseen crisis, but it needs to be mitigated. And that's a situational leadership where you just go in and you be your directive. You say, no, do this, leave that, do that, leave that, do that. Leave that, I'll take care of the person who's complaining. And through this process, as I said before, the mutual trust grows, the communication gets stronger, collective knowledge capability, and at the end of the day, you have your team, human relationships develop, responsibility through common values. Develop organizations towards the company objectives. That is the easiest way to do it, is put the thing on the wall, what the business value of the company is, what the objectives are, so everybody knows that flag in the distance on the horizon. It's green, and that's where we're all going to. No one's going over there, over there. We're not going for the blue one, we're going for the green one. Yeah? Those objectives, that's the core. Yeah? And when you've got that, and your employees understand that, and they buy into it. There may be some company objectives, some people may not buy into it. It's a whole new discussion then whether that person fits in that company or not. You have to deal with that. And that person has to realize, well, maybe I should change companies, because I don't buy into it. I don't buy into being in Facebook with all this sniffing around of NSA and so on. And make these objectives, and then develop with the people, involve them. And this model here is the way to involve the people in that process. Because as a leader, you're always present here, to the point where you can say, no, I stand off and let you run. Yeah. The other way of doing it is I work myself out of my own job, because I become, what's the word? Obsolete, yeah. Make yourself obsolete. The nice thing about being obsolete is you can do other jobs. And I've had plenty of them. New opportunities always arise. So that's it for me, first of all.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.